All right. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about public administration and the application of blockchain. My name is Benjamin Schaub, and I work for the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management Blockchain Center. Currently, I'm the project manager of the project Blockchairs, which is funded by the European Union, but we will get back to this project in a minute. Just a few words about the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center. Our Blockchain Center is a think tank and research center which focuses on the implications of blockchain technology for companies and business. We offer a platform for the exchange of knowledge for decision makers, startups, and experts in the field. The Blockchain Center also develops education programs for students and executives. Now, first of all, I would like to give you a quick overview of today's agenda. I'll be introducing the project Blockchairs and then hand over to my colleague Loha Hashimy. She will be holding the webinar about public administration. Afterwards, there will be a question and answer session. So I would like to encourage you right now to ask questions. This can be easily done in Zoom. As soon as you move your mouse, the Zoom bar should pop up. And there you can find a button which says Q&A. So just put your questions there during the webinar and Loha will address them later. Okay, now let's talk about Blockchairs for a moment. As you can see, Blockchairs facilitates the revolution of distributed ledger technologies across Europe, European small and medium-sized enterprises. So what does this mean? I'll try to put it in a nutshell. Blockchairs focuses on blockchain use case implementation. So our goal is to match technical affine startups which might lack funding and SMEs that could benefit from blockchain or DLT, but they do not really understand or do not have the technological know-how. The best group, up to 30 SMEs, will be selected to 2 open calls. We and our partners, I will get back to that later, will be supporting the qualified SMEs in pretty much every aspect on their way along the project. We'll matchmake the tech startups with traditional SMEs if this is necessary. We disseminate and communicate, like for example today. And finally, we will give a policy recommendation for blockchain and DLT on the European Union level. This slide shows the whole process. So, as I said, the best startups will receive funding, and this depends on certain factors. For example, we evaluate their business case, their blockchain expertise, and the quality of their counterpart, SME. So eventually, up to 60 startups will be receiving funding. And during the process, we will develop certain KPIs and track their progress. And their funding is based on the fulfillment of the KPIs. And the maximum funding is 50,000 euro. As you can see, our first open call just ended with 70 proposals from 18 countries. So we will be starting to work with our startups soon. Now just a few words about the involved partner companies. We have Zabala. It's a Spanish SME with over 200 employees with a lot of experience in supporting entities in the management and in their innovation activities. Then there is Innomine. It's an innovation management and innovation funding expert from Hungary. And we have Alastria, the Alastria Consortium, so to say, with members across all industries in Spain. They will support the project with their semi-public blockchain infrastructure, which is, by the way, in accordance with European regulation. And last but not least, Frankfurt School Blockchain Center. Our certificate program will provide technical and business insights to the SMEs about blockchain technology. So, before I now hand over to my colleague Loha Hashimy, let me first introduce her. Loha works as an innovation consultant and project manager at Knowledge Innovation Market. There she helps public and private entities in transferring innovative projects and developing digital transformation strategies. The focus there really is the evaluation of challenges and opportunities by new technologies, of course, especially by decentralized applications and distributed technologies. Okay, so thank you for the moment. I will now hand over. This usually takes a few seconds, so don't worry if you cannot hear her for a second, but she will be there.
And thank you so much, Benjamin. I appreciate the introduction. It's great to be speaking with all of you today. I will be sharing my screen, so so can you, Benjamin, can you tell me if you see the screen just to confirm that it works?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Great. So as Benjamin already mentioned, today we are going to talk about the applications of blockchain for public administration. Just to mention, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel, and I will be bringing them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. So let's go to... Before starting the presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about Knowledge and Innovation Market and what we do. And then I will start the content of the webinar. Knowledge Innovation Market was founded by the Chamber of Commerce of Barcelona and Data Technology Center in 2007 with the aim of stimulating the knowledge economy and promoting open innovation in Spain and around Europe. Actually, it is a technology transfer company that bridges the tech sources coming from the universities, research centers, labs, and big companies with the demand in the market. The services that we provide are technology transfer, asset valuation, commercialization, creation of business models, IP protection or intellectual property protection, financing, value chain, marketing of research and development projects, lean innovation and digital transformation, business build-up, and also we provide in-house trainings related to new technologies. Among the new technologies that we are working on, one is blockchain. So let's explain at the beginning of the webinar what's blockchain for the ones whom are not familiar that much with the technology. So blockchain is actually a decentralized peer-to-peer network that enables the members in the distributed network to record digital transactions into a shared ledger. Each member actually stores an identical copy of the shared ledger. To add transactions, members in the network run algorithms to evaluate and verify the proposed transaction. If the majority of the members in the network agree that the transaction is valid, then the new transaction is added to the shared ledger. Changes to the shared ledger are reflected in all copies of the blockchain in minutes or sometimes in seconds. And after a transaction is added, it's immutable and cannot be changed or removed. Since all members in the network have a complete copy of the blockchain, no single member has the power actually to tamper or alter data. I would like to give kind of analogy that usually Philip Sonner, the director of Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, gives, which is the similarities of email to blockchain, or I would say more to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So this way you actually get a little bit of idea how it works. I'm sure that everyone in the webinar has an email account. And most of us are using Gmail, Yahoo, or other platforms to send information as Word document, email, PDF, Excel, or other files. And so on. Even we are not sure how, or most of us, we don't know how the platform works, or even we don't actually worry what if the document is copied or resent. But have you ever tried to send money in a state of a file, or attach money in a state of a file to an email and send it to someone else without passing through a bank? Actually, this is what blockchain enables people. So now imagine that there is a technology that enables transfer of value, such as assets or money, with a click. I mean that if a technology gives you the ability to transfer titles and ownership of assets such as car, a house, stocks, and currencies without the risk of double spending. This technology is called blockchain. And with blockchain, for example, in this example, Alex can able to transfer assets such as a $100 note to Joanna in a secure and immutable and fast way. So what you need actually to transfer this money is, first of all, is actually a wallet, the same as physical wallet. So in digital world, you need a virtual or digital wallet, and also internet. So the first thing that you need is internet, then create a wallet for yourself. And for creating a wallet, you need, they will give you, the same as when you create a Gmail account, they will give you an email account, and then you can create your password. But most of the time when you create a wallet, you're automatically given a public key and private key. The public key is the same as your email address, and the private key is the same as your password. So if you want to access the wallet, you actually put your public key, and then through your private key, you access the wallet. And you're the only one who can access the wallet because you're the only one who has a private key, the same as in email. In email platforms, you can actually receive emails from other people giving your email address, but only you can access the inbox and the inbox of your email, because you are the only person who has the private key or password. So in a wallet, actually, it is the same thing. So you can send your public key actually to everyone, and everyone can send you money or assets, but only you can access the wallet with your private key. So as you see, the three things that you need in order to be able to send assets or money is actually your public key, the public key of the person whom you want to send the money to. So from, for example, Alex in this example to Joanna, and then the amount that you want to send. So once you put the amount, the only thing that you have to do is a click. Once you click, the amount is sent to Joanna, and Joanna will be able to see in her wallet from whom she has received the money and actually how much. So actually, you should not worry that much about technical things. And the only thing to remember is that before, it was actually, you were able to send information from one person to another person, as I mentioned, like documents. But now you're also able to send value, such as money, assets, or other materials that have value. So internet was enabling actually movement of information, peer-to-peer transfer of information, and blockchain enables transfer of value, a peer-to-peer way of transferring value. So we are moving actually from the Web 1 and Web 2, which was basically enabling users to transfer the copy of data such as text, images, videos, and music to blockchain that enables actually transfer of ownership. These types of transactions can include intangible assets such as currency, shares, copyrights, patents, and tangible assets such as real estate and goods, and also obligations such as contracts and pledges. So now let's see how this technology is used for governments, or how governments can actually, or public administration can benefit from such a technology. In 2014 and 2015, there was no public initiative related to blockchain since it was a really new technology. But in 2017, there were around 117 initiatives in 26 countries where either they were in progress or planned, but most of them, they were announced from different governments and public administration. So some of main activities, active actually use cases of blockchain for public sectors were listed as digital currency payments, land registry, voting, identity management, supply chain traceability, healthcare, voting proxies, and also corporate registration, taxation, and entitlement. So during 2017, governments were actually thinking of using blockchain for these main use cases. But suddenly in 2018, from 117 initiatives, then we jumped to 217 blockchain initiatives in 46 countries. So we can actually see that the number of countries interested in applying blockchain for public administration increased radically during 1 year. And the applications of blockchain for the governments in 2018 were listed as identity, so establishing and maintaining identities for citizens and residents, such as birth certificates, marriage licenses, visas, and date records. Also, a blockchain is used for personal records, such as interoperable health records and insurance records. The use of blockchain for land title registry, which means that the government and the consumers or people, citizens, can actually see a detailed historic record related to real estates, and also can do property transactions. Another use case during 2018 was supply chain management inventory. So most of the governments were actually experimenting how they can use blockchain in order to manage the supply chain, and also track the assets from its creation, transportation, purchase, and inventory. And also blockchain was used to benefits and entitlements, and also aid management. So governments are experimenting to use blockchain for social security, or medical payment, benefit payments, or domestic and international aids. And also another use case of blockchain in the public administration during 2018 was contract and vendor management. So how blockchain can enable tracking and paying vendors. And the other use case is voting, since blockchain can enable a new way of digital voting, which actually ensure eligibility and accurate counting of the number of votes, and also it's a way to audit the process easier and faster. And the use of blockchain for streamlining interagency processes. So these applications were mainly experimented during 2018, and then you might be wonder actually why governments are interested in using blockchain, how blockchain can help governments um, in their processes. Since you know that governments are tasked with facilitating transparency, especially in governance, distribution of resources, and achieving greater efficiencies. For these reasons, the governments of many countries actually have expressed interest in the technology. Blockchain applications for governments might be the missing link towards helping governments to become fully digitized. Blockchain-based government is promising solutions that enables secure storage of citizen and business data, and also reduction of labor-intensive processes and excessive costs, and also reduction or reducing the opportunities for corruption and abuse. And another application is increased trust in governments and also online civil systems. A blockchain-based digital government can protect data, streamline processes, and reduce fraud, waste, and abuse, while simultaneously can also increase trust. There are very key uses of blockchain in governments, and here are some of the situations in which the technology can be applied to. So blockchain actually can be used to facilitate legal enforcement. So governments can use data from public blockchains to track the financial dealings, similar to how fiat money transactions are monitored, to make sure that the system does not facilitate illegal dealings. And implementation of blockchain for a government can be a key tool towards making sure that financial transactions in the digital domain remain legal. And a good example of that is actually Bitcoin's public network, which allows researchers to track any Bitcoin transaction, meaning that they can actually determine the amount stored in a crypto wallet at any given time. This can be handy actually towards curbing illegal dealings, such as drug trafficking and money laundering. The other use case can be actually fixing the taxation problem. Taxation is also one of the major issues that have been heavily talked about when it comes to cryptocurrencies, especially due to the use of digital currencies to avoid taxation. While that can be controlled through the use of public blockchains and non-private coins, blockchain can help governments to take things a notch higher. And blockchain can be one of the solutions for fixing double taxing problem. And since decentralized ledger technologies have the capacity to foster more transparency in financial transactions, then governments can use blockchain technology to deploy protocols that can be used to reduce VAT deficits and reduce the tax burden by eliminating double taxation. Governments can also use blockchain actually to protect government infrastructure. And blockchain applications in the public sector can help governments to ensure better protection over their critical infrastructure, thus keeping cyber attacks at bay. And most of the critical systems used by governments all over the world to facilitate service and delivery are connected to the internet. So blockchain can be a safeguard for that databases. And this stresses the importance of security for critical systems. And since blockchain cannot be hacked, then it's potentially the best solution. And a decentralized ledger can also be deployed such that it's able to keep track of the integrity of the government system. This would significantly reduce the chances of attacks and data tampering. Blockchain technology can also be used to boost the efficiency of welfare distribution. Decentralized ledger technology can significantly improve the process of registration as well as payment. This way, it will allow governments to handle matters related to welfare with more efficiency. Blockchain can also be used to deploy faster service delivery, allowing the citizens to benefit directly. And blockchain-powered government payment system would drastically reduce the amount of money that is lost or wasted along the way. It can also save more money for the taxpayer since overpaying will be reduced by huge margins. Such systems will also be more efficient in getting more people out of poverty. And additionally, blockchain technology can be used to facilitate proper allocation of funds to government projects. We can call it as digitized aids. Now let's talk about actually the real use cases, since the public sector is responsible for many areas of trust and services. So there are a large number of use cases across countries, including European Union, which is using actually blockchain for anti-counterfeiting. Among the European Union countries, for example, Estonia is using blockchain in order to create a digital government. US is using it for FDA, DHS, and HHS. And also kind of like securities and also anti-counterfeiting. China is using blockchain nowadays for payments, the same as India, for example, which is using blockchain for payments and land registry. Among the countries which is using blockchain, is one of them is actually Switzerland, which use blockchain for identity. Denmark is using it, for example, for voting. Dubai is using it for digital government. It is also used in Georgia for land registry, and Gibraltar is using it for a stock exchange. So let's deep dive into some of these initiatives in more details. As I mentioned, Estonia is actually using blockchain in order to digitize the government. And they are claiming that Estonia actually started testing the technology in 2008, even before Bitcoin white paper was published. So Estonia is actually, they were calling the system by then Ashling time stamping, but they claim that the system is the same as proposed Bitcoin blockchain. Since 2012, actually, blockchain has been in production, used in Estonia to protect national data, e-services, and smart devices, both in public and private sectors. Also, the Estonian government deployed a blockchain-based national identity management system called ID cards. It actually helps significantly to reduce the time that it takes for the government to deliver services to the country's citizens. Dubai's government also hopes to become the first government that that is powered by blockchain technology by 2020. This means that the government plans on integrating blockchain solutions into all services, including visa applications, payment of bills, and renewal of licenses, among other services. The aim is actually to bring blockchain applications in the public sector to improve government services. Dubai estimates that it could save as much as $1.5 billion every year by a paperless transaction system powered by blockchain. So Dubai Land Department is employing concise-based private network to automate and optimize end-to-end real estate business processes using the blockchain technology. Mainly, blockchain is used in three initiatives: ownership verification and DLD mobile application, property sale by developer, and also smart leasing process. Which is actually targeting the improvement of providing the services and also improving the collaborations with other parties involved in the real estate market, which also can create a secure digital digital assets. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, conducted a study that found that interbank payments within Singapore or cross-border and cross-border financial transactions were inefficient and slow. So MAS partnered with R3. R3 is actually a consortium of banks and regulators to create a prototype for blockchain-based digital Singaporean dollar to facilitate digital transaction. This would allow for incorporability of records through a decentralized trust system, but also 24-hour processing with no centralized, human-based checks required. The partnership has successfully developed software prototypes of 3 different models for decentralized interbank payment that are now being explored. And MAS also has published the source code as open source on GitHub. So MAS and Singapore Exchange, they also announced on 24th of August previous year that it is collaborating to develop delivery versus payment capabilities for settlement of tokenized assets across different blockchain platforms. This will allow financial institutions and corporate investors to carry out simultaneous exchange and financial settlements of tokenized actually digital currencies and security assets, which in turn can improve operational efficiencies and reducing settlement costs. Another project is actually Ubin. So Ghana actually lacked a systematic way to determine the legal existence of parcels and to track land ownership titles. This prevented authorities and property owners from having clear certainty and visibility over what belongs to whom, which was resulting in regular disputes. In addition, because previous processes were on paper, it could take over a year to register the sale or purchase of property, which was actually a risk for both seller and buyer. So they found the solution in blockchain. So Ubin actually is a project that provides an Ethereum run digital register system of all land registries across Ghana. It is able to certify land information through the cross-cutting of satellite imagery and on-the-ground verifications, which is working hand in hand with local stakeholders in the land market. It actually aggregates all the information such that financial institutions and the lands commission have real-time access to the data. And property transaction times have been reduced by 75%, and court disputes have been also reduced since they have started deploying this project. The key features of Ubin or the use of blockchain actually removes the characteristic of infinite reproducibility from a digital asset. and write end-to-end property transactions on the real estate blockchain to provide scalable, secure, transparent, and shared immutable property data to all the participants of the trust and trusted network. It also eliminates paper documentation and replace it with digital records and digitally signed documents. It eliminates the manual process by integrating required stakeholders that are participating in the process. And through the blockchain network, it actually provides iBright platform for real estate market to be shared across different government or private entities to get benefit of real-time data and avoid manual processes to complete the transactions. So sharing the information between entities can serve also the open data initiatives, which can improve secure and simplify the overall property transaction process. Another use case of blockchain in public administration is done by Scott. It's called Vehicle Wallet. The project was implemented in Denmark. So as you all might know, during a car's life cycle, it undergoes various phases and activities such as tests, repair, loan, insurance, and also changes of ownership. When a car is sold from one person to another, there can be a lack of information from either the buyer or seller. On the seller side, the car could have undergone an undesirable rebuild, or even it could have been stolen, right? On the buyer side, the buyer could never register the car, which could result in continuous taxes for the original seller. And the solution is actually using Vehicle Wallet, which is blockchain based. And Vehicle Wallet is a partnership between the payment service provider and the Danish tax administration. It's a supply chain management tool where data concerning the car is saved in one distributed ledger and creates one agreed and shared record of the vehicle history as it is transferred across the supply chain. It reduces also the risks for buyer and sellers and helps ensure Denmark receives all property taxes. The Danish Customs and Tax Administration, which I already mentioned, Scott, and Nets are collaborating on a proof of concept to ensure transparency and rightful ownership when buying and selling a used vehicle. And the concept is actually meant to offer visibility throughout the life cycle management of a vehicle, from import to scrubbing to the benefits of both buyer and seller, as well as also tax authorities for sure. Other use cases of blockchain in public administration can be Follow My Vote, for example. Follow My Vote, Vote's ambition is actually to build a secure online voting platform that will allow for greater election transparency. So the system ensures that a vote is recorded only once. So they create a token of one vote, and you have one token when you spend that token. So you have actually spent your voting right. And you can use it actually, since you can use it once, then your vote can go for only one candidate. And the same as Bitcoin, you will have your wallet. So your token will be transferred to your wallet, and then you can use it to vote for the candidate that actually you favor. Active Citizen is also a kind of voting platform. it is a startup initiative from Russia. So the government of Russia actually they announced that it is advancing its plans to conduct a pilot test on the effectiveness of blockchain technology in improving the local voting system in the country. And the government further claimed that the technology will make its ongoing active citizen programs more transparent. In its public statement released on 2017, actually 2 years ago, the government said that it has already developed a pilot system for the monitoring of votes during the elections through the blockchain. So the Active Citizen project is a platform for holding open referendums in electronic form. It also creates an initiative of the it is created through an initiative of the Moscow government in 2014. But then it was, as I mentioned, it was announced in 2017 through a public statement. Mayor's chain, George Galloway, if you remember him, a mayor candidate of London in 2015, he actually, when he elected himself, he promised of implementing blockchain as part of his 2016 campaign to create the platform called Mayor's Chain. The attempt was actually to build 100 transparent records of the city's budget allocations and public funds. The software he proposed could help track public spending and let anyone see what's being spent there. Although there are, as I mentioned, there are lots of use cases of blockchain in public administration. We should not forget, or some of you might be asking, why still it's not massively adopted? Why you are not hearing a lot of headlines of governments using blockchain? It's actually because of some challenges and limitations that the technology is facing itself, or sometimes the challenges that are coming from outside, such as government regulation, and also the adoption period, or the adoption hurdles for the public administration and citizens. One of the challenges, or the technology challenges, is immutability. Actually, as I mentioned at the beginning, a blockchain is an add-only list. So once data is added, it can be removed. Perhaps it's not a good fit when updating or deleting data is a regular occurrence. So blockchain actually, I mean, although it is kind of a two-way sword, so you can use it actually for good or bad. Although immutability can be a good feature of blockchain, but also we should take in mind that once you put the data in blockchain, it will not be removed. So you should be careful what kind of data you want to put in blockchain. The other limitation is data storage. So databases are often used to store large amounts of data, such as images, documents, applications, etc. However, blockchain is designed for a small amount of data. If data storage is needed, then blockchain may not be a good fit, or the solution, or actually a hybrid solution might be needed. The other challenge which the technology is facing is adoption. So adoption is actually the act of explaining blockchain to public officials and civil servants, which is quite difficult. So sometimes delinking actually blockchain from Bitcoin and discussing how it can improve efficiency and strengthen effectiveness can be helpful, but we have seen that it's quite difficult to convince some of the governments or public administrations to switch to blockchain, or actually to see or observe the benefits that they can get from blockchain. Costs, another limitation. So the costs of blockchain are higher in short term. And since it's like an emerging technology, it actually prevents the widespread use of it. There are some blockchain as service products that have started to offer a cheaper way of using blockchain, or at least experimenting with blockchain. And another, it's not just the cost and also implementing the blockchain. We should also keep in mind that blockers, I mean, I have put it blockers here, the problem with blockers, but it really refers to mainly to Bitcoin and platforms that are using proof of work, which actually need a lot of energy consumption. And such energy consumption and also scalability can be one of the challenges that the technology is facing. Although I should mention that since right now we have more consensus protocols apart from proof of work, then it is kind of irrelevant nowadays to talk too much about the energy consumptions, because it might be so relevant to Bitcoin, but governments actually can use blockchain without using proof of work, so they can have other consensus mechanisms for their system or for their shared ledger. Another challenge is coding and governance models. So blockchains are known for eliminating the need for central authority, but this is not entirely true, because they must be actually coded and governed by those entrusted with the key roles. Which means that actually we are trusting on the people or programmers who are programming the smart contracts, and then we rely on, or we trust their knowledge, and we rely on their knowledge to do it in a good way. We should also remember that blockchain is an evolving industry, or an evolving technology, I would say. And governments, IT departments that want to adopt blockchain solutions must deal with an industry that is changing really fast. So sometimes when they want to invest in actually developing a solution, then they might actually start tempting to delay it, because they don't know what will happen tomorrow. So they might be a little bit scared of investing money now and then having a better solution in future, which can be less costly. And also we should also remember that the IT departments and governments are a little bit kind of slow, so it will take them time to catch up with the technology. Another challenge is standards. So still we don't have like a defined framework or standards for the usage of blockchain. Still we do not have a legal framework, and also better standards for using blockchain um, than the mass adoption or implementation of blockchain by governments will be kind of difficult. The other issue is privacy. So as I already mentioned, once data is stored in blockchain, it cannot be removed, or sometimes in public blockchains, since the data can be actually seen by all the members in the network, then people in the network are scared of privacy or losing privacy over decentralization or transparency. We should take in mind that what data we are putting on blockchain, and does it actually endanger our privacy or not? And since in the last years we have seen the issues with Facebook, so the privacy is becoming more and more relevant once we are talking about data. So in order to conclude, I would like to say that although blockchain is an evolving technology, it has got high potential usages for public administration. It can help the governments to reduce fraud, waste, and also increase transparency. Although it has many benefits, we should also accept that there are some technical challenges related to the technology itself, as scalability, and also other challenges that I already mentioned, and sometimes external challenges such as standards or regulations. So once the challenges are minimized, we hope that the governments start using or adopting the technology. Now, I'm ready actually to take any questions from the audience. We have around 5 minutes. I will check the...
Let me just jump in for a second, please.
Sure.
I just wanted to mention that after the webinar, you will be redirected to a really short survey, and we would really appreciate if you could give us any feedback about the webinar. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, someone is asking, Jana is asking if I can share specific examples of real estate use cases. I already mentioned one example from the Dubai real estate agency, but there are many other. For example, Bin from Ghana, as I already mentioned, they are also using blockchain for land registry. But for other example, probably in future we will have more webinars which might be only talking about or only focused on the use cases of blockchain for real estate. Someone else is saying that it should be mentioned that there are different types of blockchains and implementations. Of course, actually the introduction to blockchain was really short, since it was not an introductory webinar to blockchain. But yeah, I should mention that there are private and public blockchains. The private ones are actually they are called also permission blockchains, which means that only people who have permission can be part of the network. But public blockchains such as Bitcoin, they're also called permissionless blockchain, which means that everyone can join the network. And this person is saying that only open public blockchains or, for example, were to be immutable. Yeah, that, I mean, the person is saying that only public blockchains or permissionless blockchains are immutable. Actually, I would argue here that a private blockchain can also be immutable, since the data is stored in blocks, and it will take the same effort to act actually the blocks. So it really doesn't matter if the system is private or public. Once they use blockchain as a way to store the data, if the data is stored into blocks, then it takes the same amount of energy if it's public or private. Of course, if it's public, there are more nodes, which means they have more copies of the blockchain, which makes it more secure and more difficult to hack. But if it's private and there are enough people in them or enough nodes in the network, then again, it can also guarantee security of the system and immutability, which means that if you want to change something, especially imagine if the people in the private networks are, for example, banks, then they want to make sure that the data is not changed, or since none of them trust each other, so they will kind of react as a public or permissionless network. So they have the copy of ledger, and in order to change something in one ledger, you have to change everything in all other ledgers, which makes it again impossible or really difficult to do. So I will be waiting for 1 more minute to see if someone has any questions. Someone is asking if the recording of this webinar will be publicly available. Probably Benjamin can answer that question because I'm not sure.
Yes, it will be publicly available on YouTube. I will send the link to everyone who participated in a few days.
Thank you, Benjamin. Another question from Lars. He's asking, or she's asking, which blockchain technologies are most often used for the implementation of those use cases? I would say that, she's mentioning Hyperledger Fabric or Ethereum. I would say that there is not a majority, or there is not like a dominant technology used for such applications, because there are governments such as Dubai and Estonia, for example, they're building their own blockchains, which means that they're private. Only the government has, or if you want to say kind of a little bit centralized as well, since the government is kind of the entity controlling the network and also the data. They are not, they're actually using their own blockchain, or they're building their own blockchain. So most of the time, the governments, in order not to rely that much on corporates, they prefer to build their own blockchains. But of course, we should mention that as I gave the a use case of Singapore mass example, they're collaborating with R3 in order to use blockchain for settlement of payments. And another one is asking, can you explain a little more on the costs of implementation or running a blockchain in any of the specific use cases? Actually, the cost of implementation is not mentioned. I mean, since the information that I gave here, it's of course it's taken from internet. Most of the time, they do not reveal the cost of implementation. It also depends on the type of blockchain that you want to, or I would say the number of nodes or the data that you want to store in the blockchain. So the cost actually can be as low as the cost for a company, or it can be as high as a small company, I would say, and as high as the cost for a big corporate. So it depends actually to the number of nodes and to many other criterias. Someone else is asking, it's well known storing data on blockchain is very expensive. What are the solutions that go along with the blockchain to store data? So another way is storing data off chain. so they're asking, actually, this person is asking, since storing data on blockchain is really expensive, if there is any other solutions that can go along with blockchain. You can always have like an hybrid solution, which means that you can store some of the data in blockchain and other data off chain, which makes actually the data or all the data in the blockchain no, I mean, it makes it easier to just store the ashes of that data on blockchain rather than the old data. Where you get your question from, the ones you're answering? Yeah, someone is asking where I'm taking the questions. The one that I mentioned at the beginning, they were in the chat box, and the ones that I'm answering right now, they are actually in the question box. Miguel is asking any comments about governance and smart cities powered by IoT plus blockchain. Any examples you can recall? Yeah, so another application, some like a topic which is discussed recently a lot is what will happen if we combine blockchain with IoT? Of course, IoT or IoT devices till now they were stored in cloud. So one of the ways, and you know that sometimes paying for the cloud services, or paying for the data to be stored in the cloud is really expensive. So sometimes combining blockchain with IoT can decrease that cost, which means that everyone in the node, they will store the data. So this way, the company doesn't have to pay for the cloud. Everyone takes a little bit, or actually they're contributing a little bit of their storage for storing the data. So this actually comes to my mind right now for storing the data. I mean, blockchain can be used. At the end, we should always remember that blockchain is a way to store data. Till now, the data was stored in a centralized way, and now we can store it in a decentralized manner, which means that everyone, so most of the time till now, we were storing data somewhere, either in our computer or in a cloud, or for example, in a server. But once the data is decentralized, it means that everyone has a copy. So this way, we don't have a central entity storing the data. So whenever we're talking about data storage, then it is relevant to blockchain. But then we should think whether it is better to store it in a central way, which means sometimes it might be cheaper to store the data in a central entity or central point, or in a server, or for example in a cloud. Sometimes we want to actually increase the security of data. We want to make it immutable so no one can change it, or we want to actually have a copy of the ledger in many places, so to make it impossible for hackers to hack the database. So only in that case, then the usage of blockchain might be relevant. Otherwise, we should always have in mind that blockchain is not the only solution or the best solution for all the problems. It might be solving some of the issues, but it might be also not a good idea to use for other ones. And also, what I wanted to mention for the question that Miguel raised is a combination of blockchain and IoT. Another day, I was reading an article, and actually, I saw this example of IoT, blockchain, and AI. In this example, they were doing this metaphor of a human to blockchain, IoT, AI. They were saying, okay. The same as in a human body, as the mind is responsible for storing data and also making decisions. then the veins are responsible for transmitting actually the symbols or the signals to the brain. Blockchain can be actually, the veins can be IoT devices or sensors, which is responsible for transferring data to the brain. And the brain actually can be AI, which actually analyze it and makes decisions. And the storage, or the brain, like the physical brain itself, which stores the data or information in a person's body, can be blockchain, which means that blockchain is the base for storing data, the same as mind or brain in a person's body, which is responsible for storing information or data. Another person is bringing up the issue of digital identity and is asking, do you consider that today this problem is solved technically? There are problems. The problem with digital identity and blockchain is that till now, it is possible to do facial recognition, but combining facial recognition, for example, with fingerprints and then adding them in blockchain was problematic. It was that's why some countries, they're experimenting in using blockchain for voting, but in order to make sure that the person who is voting actually is the person who has the right to vote, then they were thinking of combining facial recognition and also using fingerprints. But as you know, most of people living in the world, they don't have devices to do the fingerprint, or they don't have like mobile phones to do the facial recognition. Then it makes it difficult to use this application massively. But I would say, yeah, there are some solutions exist, but I would not. I'm not sure, or I cannot say if it is solved completely, or if it can be actually implemented easily when we are talking about mass applications. So we are already 7 minutes out of the time. So if you have any other questions, you can actually send them by message or email. You can find me on LinkedIn. It is Loha Hashimy. So, or maybe you can also send me an email to loha.hashimy at fs-blockchain.de. It was a pleasure talking with you, and hopefully you learned something new from today's webinar. Have a good day, and bye-bye.